Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bill Cole, Client Director at Nauto. Thanks for joining us here today to talk about customer expectations in the fleet industry from a partner perspective. I'm here with Randy Reed, President of EnVue Telematics, and Dan Shive, Director of Client Engagement and Account Management at EnVue Telematics. Before we get into the Q&A, Randy and Dan, would love to hear your background, your experience in the fleet industry. Randy, we can definitely start with you.
All right. Well, good morning, Bill. So I'm Randy Reed, and I've spent the last 30 years of my professional career involved in transportation management, from the fleet management world of providing lease financing and fleet services to commercial businesses dependent upon vehicles to run their business. To the last 15 years of my career has been in transportation technology, GPS telematics, and obviously video telematics, which is the primary thing we wanted to speak to everyone about today.
Super. Dan, we'd love to hear your background.
Well, thank you, Bill. Glad to be on the program today. Really appreciate the opportunity. My background spans nearly 30 years as well. I spent quite a bit of time with a couple of different fleet management companies, and my primary responsibilities were always to work with customers really to maximize return on investment as it related to safety products and services. I've been involved on the safety side of business specifically for a better part of 15 plus years at this point. And it's something I really enjoy, working with customers so that they can do everything they possibly can to eliminate negligent entrustment.
This is fantastic, gentlemen. Great start. Let's get into some questions. Randy, how has technology met and set new customer expectations over the past 5 years, in your opinion?
Well, Bill, as you know, in the transportation management industry, the paradigms have been changing rapidly. Always has been a lot of change involved in the way businesses manage their vehicle assets and their employees assigned to operate them. But the level of change that has been brought about in the Internet of Things world we live in today have brought those paradigms to new levels. And obviously the disruption of COVID and how that has changed the way people manage their business have elevated those changes to historic levels. And never before has the efficient use of technology been important to companies to manage those transportation assets and employees deployed to operate them.
That's fantastic. Dan, how would you like to add to that? And specifically, how would you like to add to that in regards to risk? You have a lot of experience in that space, in that subject.
Well, I'll tell you, Bill, it was probably 15 plus years ago, I had my what I'll call an epiphany as it related to distracted driving. I had what's called a near miss event, and it changed the way I thought about things in terms of what was my responsibility behind the wheel. And I really thought for years, when I specifically think about distracted driving, that, technology created the problem and technology will likely solve the problem. But the way in which technology is really helping to solve the problem is quite different than what I actually thought would be. So I'm really excited to see that we don't have to rely upon really the cell phone carriers that I think are kind of part of the problem when it comes to specifically from the phone. I'm glad to see that there are other emerging technologies other than relying on those providers.
That's awesome. Dan, that's a great segue for me. I appreciate that. I want to ask you, Randy, specifically about artificial intelligence, and specifically about AI. How do you see AI impacting the fleet industry moving forward? Or how have you seen it impacting the industry to date?
So the increase in the capabilities of artificial intelligence relative to what we do in our world of transportation management through specifically video telematics, AI is a game changer, because artificial intelligence combined with the ability of the camera devices like Nauto to have edge computing to help improve risk avoidance by giving real-time driver notification for pending problems that could create incidents. And as someone in the insurance industry told me a long time ago, we don't define them as accidents, we define them as incidents. And AI is the strongest, most powerful tool I have ever experienced in helping avoid those incidents from occurring. And that's a game changer.
That's a good two words put together there, Randy. Game changer. Dan, how would you like to add to that and add to Randy's comments?
I absolutely agree that it's a game changer, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you really think about things, Bill, you know, all of us as we drive behind the vehicle, there are those that I call will participate in distraction, and then there's those that won't participate in it, and they become really easy to identify if you're paying attention behind the wheel and really watching them. What this type of technology can really do, though, is it provides that instant feedback to the driver that they're doing something wrong, they're doing something that is distracting, and they're putting themselves and others really in harm's way. So to me, again, it's something that we probably all didn't train ourselves to be addicted to different types of distractions. It just naturally happened along the way, because most of the time nothing ever happens. With this type of technology, though, I think it gives folks a great ability to retrain themselves to just purely focus behind the wheel while they're driving.
Yeah, fantastic. As you both know and are discovering more, Nauto has been first to market with advanced AI technology. And it does. It gives drivers two key things, or two critical things. One is the ability to react faster and quicker to situations based on the alerting, based on the accurate alerting. And the second thing that it definitely brings to the table is it provides safety and risk managers insights into driver risk, insights on how and where to mitigate that risk. So Dan, a question to you would be, how do you react to that when you start to hear technology providers get into the conversation about risk, and how does that driver information, what does that mean to you in regards to your perspective?
So interesting question. And you know, it really, Randy made the point earlier about, you know, the last 12, 14 months with the pandemic. And I think everybody has now seen and heard about the statistical analysis. We've got collisions on the increase, injuries, fatalities, all on the increase during a year where we had probably the least amount of miles driven. So this distraction and this poor driving behaviors that we have now even increased really make an opportunity for fleets to even go a little bit further in terms of what they're monitoring. I think if there are fleets out there that are considering this type of technology, you got to think about it a couple of different ways. How can we help retrain drivers, again, like I mentioned before, about remaining focused while they're behind the wheel, and then how can you use that information to supplement areas within your policy that folks really know about how important safety is, not just to the organization, but it's about themselves. It's about their families. That's really what the goal is to get drivers home to their families.
Got it. That's perfect. And I completely agree with you. Randy, in the area of privacy, I mean, privacy is something that comes up, especially in these fleet conversations, right? What's your perspective on privacy around cameras? What have you heard from customers? Give us some perspective on privacy.
Well, Bill, it's always a topic that you have to start the conversation relative to deployment of technologies that are potentially encroaching on the privacy of your employees. But I think it starts with the corporate entity articulating the purpose of deploying technologies like video telematics to enhance safety in the workplace. That this is an extension of our corporate policies to provide a safer environment, as Dan said, to get our employees home at the end of their shift safely. And privacy, listen, we live in an environment that there is very little privacy out there, right? I mean, you can't engage on your phone or your computer. You can't go to the ATM. You can't drive down a highway. We are under constant surveillance in our society today. It's a way of life. And I think to overcome some of the anxiety that oftentimes elevates to outright paranoia by drivers in commercial fleet is good communication. We're going to deploy technology tools to help create a safer environment for everyone in our organization, and to do so with the opportunity to improve productivity and increase profitability, which benefits us all in this organization.
Got it. Dan, from speaking about privacy, in the area of risk, and if I'm a risk analyst inside of a large fleet, how does privacy fit into their mindset, into a risk person's mindset?
Bill, I'll tell you, I'm not an attorney, nor did I spend the night at the Holiday Inn Express. However, I think there are certain things that, and Randy kind of mentioned it too, is that, these, first of all, the assets that the people are driving are largely supplied by a corporation. And that corporation has a certain amount of goals and objectives that they want to accomplish. To Randy's point about how we've given up to some degree our freedoms and understanding that we're being tracked in multiple ways. It's really the company's not just a obligation to do these things, but to understand that they're acting in the best interest of the employees and the corporation. So I look at the privacy side, I guess, very similar to how Randy looks at it, is it's my vehicle, it's my rules. I'm doing it for the benefit of you, the driver, and us as the organization, which ultimately does benefit everybody. It's not always about the privacy necessarily of the driver too. It's really about protecting the entire public as you're sharing the roadways with them. Got
it. This is great. Gents, let's turn to driver training. AI has the ability and the capability to dramatically reduce the burden for driver training, for fleet managers to get involved with training. I don't want to throw out a bunch of numbers, but it's a big deal in the reduction of driver training space. AI really brings a lot to the table. I'd love to get your perspective on that subject. And Randy, specifically, as driver training has evolved over the years, where do you think AI, as we march forward and put AI into the marketplace, where do you see it having an impact in driver training?
Well, Bill, I think that conversation starts with the critical component for fleet managers to have the ability to not only identify risky driving behavior, but to have a way to remediate and improve that behavior to increase safety, reduce operating expense, what have you. And AI is a tool that provides remedial help to improve driving behavior through instant communication and alerting. It's a conditioned response. Pavlov's dog, the ringing of the bell, having that feedback at the time that the bad behavior occurs can't help but coach people to better behavior. And then the video side of things, giving the company the ability to coach further after the fact. AI is coaching in the cab, and that's superior. Video, in terms of coaching, the old adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Drivers get a better sense of how their bad behavior has impacted and elevated their risk to themselves and to the public that they're sharing the roadway on, more so than a simple conversation or a conversation about a driver abstract report or something like that. Here's what happened today. Here are opportunities to improve how we are engaging on the roadway when we're behind the wheel of our vehicle.
Got it. Dan, along those lines, do you see more and more fleets using the AI information to score drivers and to set up risk profiles for drivers to promote, to retain, and also to offboard drivers? Do you see that happening more and more and more with this technology?
It absolutely should be happening, Bill. That would be my first comment. Now, when we look at the overall picture of risk, it's to me, it's never one thing that makes a driver safer or makes a fleet safer. It's a combination of things, and it's just my opinion that the more we know about what's available to mitigate risk, the more fleets need to consider how many of these programs and products should they be implementing. We've already talked about the fact that AI can provide that immediate feedback, and that immediate feedback will help train drivers to do less behind the wheel so that they're not hearing those audible alerts that frankly will probably bother them because they know they've done something wrong and they know the boss has probably seen it on the background too. But again, it's never one thing. So I think it's an immediate type of training. To Randy's point, it can be used to do some remedial training on the back end. I am a believer that training is important at all different levels, whether it's new hire training, whether it's periodic quarterly or monthly training, and then the immediate feedback type training that can be provided through AI. To me, the more you do, the better you're going to reduce collisions, reduce your costs, and you'll protect yourself even more so should an event occur and you're sitting in the witness stand explaining to some jury about all of the different programs you have, how they work, and what you're doing to mitigate risk.
Got it. I think that, gentlemen, we're on the same page in regards to the fact that we know that AI technology can lighten the burden of driver training through highly accurate, and let me emphasize highly accurate. It's really important to think about that term. Highly accurate real-time alerts that help drivers perform better. And both of you have said the word immediately. If you're off a millisecond, it could be the difference between life and death. And I think that from that perspective, let's talk a little bit. Let's sort of conclude here. Randy, would love to hear about Randy and Dan. Would love to hear your perspective on how AI, as we move forward, and we start to see AI blossom in this space. We see real-time risk analysis right through AI, and continue to deliver on that front. How will this impact the fleet industry moving forward over the next couple of decades? I know both of you have spent a lot of time on this subject, but it feels like it's really starting to finally happen, and would love to get your sort of your opinion on that.
Well, I think the segue is to our audience that are viewing our content today. 10 years ago, the conversations that we had with fleet managers and risk managers and owners of businesses dependent on vehicles was around what could GPS tracking do to enhance the ability to improve their negligent entrustment responsibilities and make their driving safer for their employees and make their businesses more productive and more profitable. The conversation fast forward to 2021 is about video and more specifically about the AI capabilities developing in video and how powerful a game changer that is in the fleet and risk management world. There's nothing more topical today, and everyone, I believe, has an interest in learning more, and we are seeing a large number of our customers and prospective customers engaging and moving forward with the deployment of video telematics, and Nodo's AI is at the leading cutting edge of the solutions available for them to consider.
That's great. Dan, I think we're starting to really see the proof in the pudding here. I think the cause and effect is starting to really take shape. We are definitely seeing that. Are you seeing that? Are you seeing where fleets are truly starting to acknowledge that by using accurate AI on the edge with zero latency in the cabin is starting to not only improve driver behavior, but correlate to collision frequency reduction and therefore money saved and lives saved? Are you starting to see that happen? Yeah.
Absolutely, Bill. I mean, when you're able to utilize this technology and get that return on investment that you were not only hoping for, but you'll probably even get even more than you thought. With the less collisions, the less cost, the better ability that those organizations will have to be insured or making sure that they're insurable by reducing their losses, by reducing their loss history. To Randy's point earlier, from how this type of technology has changed things. When you think of all of the different types of programs in loss control, some customers are going to be doing MBRs, some will be doing continuous monitoring, some will be doing some level of driver training, some have adopted telematics, and some are now adopting more into the world dash cams and types of AI technology that you have. I think it's slow, but it's growing, and it's growing because fleets are starting to understand that insurability cost is becoming more and more prevalent. It's incredible how much policies and premiums continue to rise when you have incidents that were clearly avoidable. So by utilizing this technology, and I think again, the more sophisticated fleets that have placed a lot more emphasis on safety, they'll start to look at this technology and really realize how well it can help them from top to bottom in their organization.
This is great. We've covered a lot of ground, gentlemen. We've talked about accurate AI-powered insights, in-vehicle privacy, training. We've covered a lot of ground on risk. I hope this gives the listeners a perspective on current needs and opportunities for fleets today, and the profound effect that AI-powered, I'm going to repeat it, accurate AI-powered real-time risk analysis and AI-powered safety solutions have in the industry. Randy and Dan, as always, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you today, seeing you today.
You too, Bill. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Bill. Pleasure to join you today.
Absolutely.